Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a pretty complex physics paper that asks a question you've probably never even thought to ask. Why isn't the air you're breathing right now being ripped away as the Earth hurtles through space at, thousands of miles per hour? All right, let's dive right in with a puzzle that's literally all around us, but also incredibly deep. We're on a planet that's spinning and orbiting the sun at ridiculous speeds, so why do our oceans and our entire atmosphere just go along for the ride? Why are they seemingly glued in place? Now, we all know gravity holds things down, right? But that's not the whole story. That doesn't really explain what force, what kind of mechanism makes sure that trillions of tons of air and water move with the planet in perfect sync through the vacuum of space. Just think about this for a second. The Earth's surface at the equator is moving at over 1,000 miles an hour. That is almost double the cruising speed of a commercial jet. If our atmosphere wasn't perfectly locked in with the planet, we'd be living in a constant world-ending hurricane. This really puts into perspective just how profound this puzzle of moving together really is. So along comes this paper from a theoretical framework called Unified Postmodern Theory, or UPT for short, and it proposes something pretty radical. It suggests the answer isn't some external force like gravity or friction we've been looking for, but actually an internal property of how matter itself behaves when it's part of a stable system. The whole theory basically boils down to just two fundamental rules. The paper makes the case that if any system meets these two conditions, it has to move together as one. So, what are these two rules that could unlock this whole cosmic mystery? Okay, so the first concept is a mathematical idea the paper calls shear free motion. Now, don't get hung up on the math term. You can just think of it as a really simple intuitive rule. Basically, no internal sliding or tearing inside the system. And this is the core idea. For our atmosphere to stick with the Earth, it has to move as if it were one single solid object. Like a perfectly balanced spinning basketball. Every single part of it moves in absolute unison. There's no chaotic sloshing or internal layers grinding against each other. And here's a fantastic way to picture it. On the left, you've got motion with shear. Think of shuffling a deck of cards or a messy, turbulent river. On the right, that's shear-free motion. It's clean, like a solid block of wood or a spinning billiard ball. The paper's big claim is that large, stable systems, like, a planet, will always naturally settle into that smooth, shear-free state. Okay, so that brings us to the second key idea. If there's no internal sliding, what's actually guiding the motion? Well, the paper suggests the motion isn't random at all. It's actually being directed by a hidden internal recipe. This is where UPT gets really, really interesting. It suggests that matter contains its own instructions for how it's going to move. In this equation, that little symbol psi represents the internal blueprint, and the velocity, v, is simply that blueprint unfolding over time. The motion literally comes from within, not from without. And this is a really profound shift in thinking. Instead of an object just reacting to outside forces, being pushed and pulled, its evolution is actually driven by its own internal configuration. It's like it has its own blueprint for the future. So what happens when a system's motion is both shear-free and it's driven by its own internal blueprint? Well, according to the paper, that's when you get the magic of co-movement. And here it is, the central finding of the whole paper. Now, I know it looks a bit dense, but let's break it down real quick. That double arrow in the middle means if and only if, which is a really strong logical link. It's saying that co-movement happens if and only if the two conditions we just covered are met. So what this really means, according to UPT, is that these two rules aren't just things that happen during co-movement. They are the actual cause of it. The connection goes both ways. If a system is moving together, it absolutely must be shear-free and have an internal potential. And if it has those two properties, it absolutely must be moving together. So how do they prove it? Well, the authors lay out this logical chain. They argue that nature is just fundamentally efficient. It always wants to find the path of least resistance, the lowest energy state. And that state, well, that's a state without any internal friction or shear. And that clean state can only be described by an internal potential. Okay, so why does any of this matter beyond just explaining our atmosphere? Well, this is where the theory gets truly ambitious. It moves from being about a planetary puzzle to being potentially a universal law. The authors make a really bold claim here. They propose that this isn't some special rule just for atmospheres or oceans. They think this is a single, elegant principle that governs motion in pretty much any stable composite system in the entire universe. And this is the truly mind-bending part. The claim is that this isn't just about planets. The authors are suggesting this same fundamental principle of systems settling into a shear-free, potential-driven state applies everywhere. It could be the reason gas clouds pull together to form stars, and even the reason that entire galaxies spin as a single majestic unit. And this leaves us with a final, really provocative thought. We're so used to thinking of the universe as a chaotic place, full of random collisions. But what if there's a deep, underlying principle of harmony, a single, elegant role that ensures that wherever there's a system, there's togetherness? If this theorem is right, it might just be the hidden music that the entire cosmos dances to.